Tribal society in the medieval period. Like the ancient times, the Hindu society in the medieval period was divided into four main varnas: Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. This gave rise to the differences between high and low and between the poor and the rich. These differences grew into caste system. The society became complex because the four varnas got subdivided further into jats or subcastes. People following a particular profession formed their own castes or jatis. For example, carpenters, goldsmiths, weavers, etc. formed their distinct subgroups or jatis when people of a particular varna migrated to some other place and started living there for generations. Thus, mobility of the people and specific occupations led to the formation of jatis. Gradually, people came to be identified by their jatis. People belonging to a particular jati formed their own close-knit group.
There were some social groups which did not follow the social rules and rituals laid down by the Brahmanas, nor were they divided into different varnas which existed in Hindu society. Such social groups or societies are often called tribes.
Tribal society. Since the ancient times, the tribes have formed a distinct group in Indian society. The tribes lived in clans led by the tribal chiefs. Each tribe had its own laws, rules, and traditions, and it survived by hunting, food gathering, and by doing shifting cultivation. Unlike the Hindu society, tribes had no caste system. There was socio-economic equality in a tribal community. A tribal group owned land, cattle, and other movable properties collectively. Thus, tribal communities were based on sharing and mutual dependence. Interaction between the tribal groups and Indian society. In the medieval period, many of the tribal groups were absorbed into the rest of the Indian society.
As the medieval kingdoms expanded, great rulers took over the territories of many tribes.
The tribal chiefs were generally given the status of Kshatriyas, while the ordinary tribals were given the status of Shudras. Under the Mughal rule, for example, Khokhars and Gakars, who were tribes of Punjab, were absorbed into the Indian society. Their chief was given the administrative posts while the rest of the tribesmen became farmers.
Khokhars became powerful during 13th and 14th centuries. Afterwards, Gakhars rose to power and their chief Kamal Khan Gakhar was made a mansabdar by Akbar.
But all the tribal groups did not easily agree to become part of the Hindu society. Often they resisted and fought back. Being independent-minded, many of the tribal groups resisted their absorption into the Hindu society. One example of such resistance was by the Cheros, the forest tribes of eastern Uttar Pradesh and western Bihar. The Cheros fought with the Mughals and built forts to strengthen their resistance. Finally, the Cheros were defeated by the Mughal general Raja Man Singh. But the Cheros raised their banner of resistance once again and were defeated by the forces of Emperor Aurangzeb.
The regions of Multan and Sindh were dominated by Langas and Arguns before they were suppressed by Mughals. Gorgas, Maravas, and several others were tribal groups in south. Vast forest areas of Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, and Andhra Pradesh were occupied by the Gonds. Nagas and Ahoms dominated the northeastern part of the subcontinent.
A relationship based on economic exchanges. Most of the tribal groups were pastoral nomads. They moved from one place to another with their cattle. They sold their animal products such as milk, ghee, and wool for grains, utensils, and textiles, etc., produced by the settled communities, farmers, and craftsmen. One such nomadic tribal group involved in these commercial exchanges were the Banjaras. They bought grains and vegetables from the farmers and brought them to the cities and towns to be sold in the urban markets. The Banjaras moved along with the caravans in which they carried their goods. Their animals also moved with them. Thus, the Banjaras provided a very important service to the state and society by transporting food supplies from the village to the cities.
They transported food grains to the large Mughal armies during military campaigns. There were several itinerant groups such as craftspersons, peddlers, and entertainers who moved from place to place practicing their occupations. They often visited the same places year after year.
As economy and society became more complex, people with new skills were incorporated into the Hindu society. Many tribes became part of the Hindu caste-based society and were given the status of jatis. Within the Kshatriya caste, Rajputs became prominent by the 11th and the 12th centuries. Many Rajputs too had originally belonged to tribal communities. Generally, tribal groups belonging to ruling families became Rajputs. Otherwise, a majority of the tribes joined the jatis who belonged to the lower caste hierarchy. Thus, many tribal groups later became a part of the caste-based Hindu society. On the other hand, many tribal groups, especially in the Punjab and Sindh region, were converted to Islam because there was no caste system in Islam and it was free from caste hierarchy.